I'm joined today here on Primetime Local News with Robin Acton and Krista Carr from Inclusion Canada. It's exciting to have you both here in studio today. First of all, just talk to me a little bit about the organization in general, because I know there's a lot of different kind of branches locally and provincially, but talk to me about the whole idea and the mission.
Okay. Well, Inclusion Canada is the national office of 10 provincials and 3 territorial inclusion associations. They're not all called Inclusion, but Inclusion Alberta and Inclusion Saskatchewan would be member associations. And then we have local associations like Inclusion Lloydminster.
And so I was looking on some of the information when I was preparing to speak with you guys, and there was a whole list of different priorities that are important to the organization. So income security, access to justice, advocating, advancing human rights, inclusive education, whole list, healthcare is in there, housing. Just talk to me a little bit about some of the priorities. Obviously, I listed them off there, but how some of those priorities come to action, some of the stuff that you're advocating for, stuff like that.
I mean, essentially, when you list all those priorities, what they are actually about is for people to have good, inclusive lives, lives that probably parallel your and my lives. So the opportunity to go to their neighborhood schools, to be part of community recreation, to have a job, maybe get married, do all the things that are just typical. So some of the priority areas we work on, because we're Inclusion Canada and we deal with mostly federally regulated things, are issues like we get involved in employment. So like Ready, Willing, and Able, and I'll let Krista then tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah, so Ready, Willing, and Able is our national employment program. It works in every province and territory, and in the last few years it's created over 3,800 jobs for people who have an intellectual or developmental disability or autism. So real jobs, real pay, real work, all of that stuff. And so it just sort of ties right into our mission of full inclusion and ordinary lives for everybody. On income security, though, you mentioned, and some exciting new progress. Obviously, income security is a huge issue because 70% of adults with an intellectual disability live in poverty, and that's a Canadian stat. And so that's a huge problem. And so we've been working vigorously with the federal government on the establishment of a Canada Disability Benefit. And so that's been a culmination of a lot of work over a long period of time with other organizations for sure, but our federation, families, individuals, and allies have played a huge role in that. And we just saw that passed by the Senate yesterday. It will get royal assent either today or tomorrow, and we will finally have that bill established in law. Now we have to work to make sure that the regulations and all the details get sorted out over the next while, so there'll be lots of hard work left. But that will impact people with a disability right here in Lloydminster and across the country in terms of the goal to alleviate poverty.
Now that's got to be a big, exciting news, something that you've advocated for a long time. And like you were mentioning, people here in Lloydminster and across the country are going to be benefiting from that. And what about housing? I know housing is something that's very important as well, even if we're talking just in general for everyday life of the average Canadian. But job security is obviously important, but what's the work going on with housing, or what's some of those key issues going on there?
Well, the federal government has the National Housing Strategy, and we worked really hard as an organization to make sure there were targets around people who had a developmental disability in terms of creating opportunities for inclusive, affordable, accessible housing. And that doesn't look like an institution or a nursing home or residential facility or a group home. It looks like the same type of homes that we all live in, whether that's houses or mini homes or condos, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Those opportunities should look the same, with support where required and all of those things for everybody. But people that we support typically don't have those opportunities. They're often, if they can't live at home with their parents, or that they don't want to live at home with their parents anymore, they're often placed somewhere to live, which is not necessarily of their choosing, and certainly not someplace the rest of us would choose to live.
Now, Robin, you were saying you're the president of Inclusion Canada, and you were telling me that there's a long history of people from Lloydminster having high roles in this organization. Talk to me a little bit about that, and you have Krista coming here, having some meetings and stuff, so just talk about the importance of this organization here in the community and just the people as well supporting it.
So in our 70 years, there's been 3 national presidents from Lloydminster, and I think that's a testament to the strength of our local Inclusion Lloydminster and our connections that are far beyond just our own community. And I think it's also a testament to the culture that we have here in Lloydminster and the work that's been done, and that we're a very progressive community.
Now, I know the Lloydminster Place project, I think it was a Good Deeds Cup, they got some money and that was able to get put into an more accessible arena for that project. So that's something that I think a lot of people, when they hear Inclusion Lloydminster, they think maybe about that project. But is there anything else happening locally that you wanted to talk a little bit about too, about some things that are happening here in this community?
Well, I think I've been part of the Inclusion Lloydminster board for a long time, so I don't want to steal their thunder. They're a very progressive organization. We just held our annual fundraising breakfast, which is so well supported by the community. Every year, 400 people come to hear the stories and get inspired about what's actually possible. So that was another major initiative, and we are working, to make sure our community as a whole is inclusive and accessible for everybody, so that everyone belongs.
We're a federated structure, which means we're all our own independent organizations that come together through membership and because we want to be together. But it's the power of that working at the local level, filtering up to the provincial level and up to the national level and back and forth. And none of us would be able to be strong unless we're all strong and working together and trying to row the boat in the same direction. And I think here in Lloydminster is a perfect example of that.
And you have people on the ground that know the local issues that are able to kind of work together and then also have that go up the chain as well, hey?
For sure.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you both once again for coming in. It was great to meet you and talk about some of the great work that's going on. Some of those issues that still need to be pressed home, but it was great to have you both here today.
Thanks so much
Thanks
for inviting
very
us.
much.
Awesome.